sadly, for these active shootings to take place in schools, in churches, and various other facilities. The public is concerned, as they should be, but law enforcement is perhaps even more concerned because the job that they have, the burden that they have, is to protect citizens at all times. And so we're sitting down across the table, oftentimes discussing or having discussions about how to beef up security, but there's only so much that can be done with limited budgets, with limited manpower. And so the bottom line here is they're trying to do the best that they can given the circumstances, but there is no question that these incidents, brings the level of intensity and the tension in the law enforcement community to a higher point.
So one other question for you, just to clarify, the Prairie Land Detention Center, which was the site of an attack on July 4th down in Johnson County in Alvarado, which is again in North Texas. We know that just this week that the defendants were facing terrorism-related charges due to that alleged pre-planned ambush of that ICE facility. What kind of charges could we be looking at here for a potential active shooter type situation?
Well, assuming that the individual is still alive, I would say that you're probably going to have to, law enforcement is going to have to identify and find out what the motive behind this was. Was this part of a coerced attack with other people being involved? Were there other people helping this person out? Was this an ideological issue versus a personal issue? All of those things have to be ruled out. But assuming that the suspect will still be alive, I would say to you that all of those factors are going to govern the prosecutor as to what charges are going to be brought up. But, time will tell.
Well, another incident that we want to kind of bring back up just to get some context here. Back in August, the Dallas field office was threatened with a bomb threat that we're just wondering, we're talking about threats in this case. This continues to happen. How is this possible? A bomb threat there, they're showing up with guns and snipers and things like that. What is the overall response to these things that continue to happen?
Well, first of all, there's very, sadly enough, there's very little that we can do to prevent those instances from taking place. But secondly, what I can tell you is that there are protocols and then protocols, right? So in the law enforcement community, we know that things can happen very quickly. And in our job, those of us that work with law enforcement in the criminological sense, we actually try to help them understand what possible threats there are. So we have to imagine the unimaginable. We have to think about the unthinkable. We have to oftentimes sit down and say, are you ready for this eventuality? Could this happen? Are these things possible? And then law enforcement's job is to ensure that they have a plan to prepare themselves for that. And then when or if it does happen, address it immediately.
Just to jump in real quickly, I know we are streaming this coverage live on CBS Texas as well as CBS News Texas and TXA 21. I just want to give our viewers a quick update on what's happening. Dr. Del Carmen, just stay with us just for a second. We want to give viewers an idea of the scene they're looking at. This is 35E at Empire Central in Dallas, right to the southwest corner of Love Field. So this is a very populated, very heavily traveled area during the morning commute. That large police activity you see there is from, quote, multiple people being shot during a shooting at ICE's field office in Dallas on Wednesday morning. That is the quote from a senior Homeland Security official that spoke to CBS News earlier this morning. The Dallas ICE facility where this shooting occurred was known as a field office, which also serves as a temporary detention center, mainly for processing and holding for immigration detainees before being transferred to other detention facilities. So again, we are hearing that multiple people were shot as a result of an active shooter situation at the ICE facility in Dallas, right off of Stemmons Freeway.
And just if you could take a look at your screen too as well and walk on over and just take a look, you could see that this is a very heavy police presence. There are dozens of cop cars that you see lined up along the freeway here. It just goes to show you the magnitude of this situation. Again, multiple people shot here at this Dallas ICE field office. Again, a temporary holding center for those there at this detention facility.
And to give you a timeline, so we've been talking to Alex Del Carmen, who is a criminology professor at Tarleton State. Dr. Del Carmen, we know back in July we had the attack at the Johnson County Prairieland Detention Facility. That was an ICE facility. And then in August, or earlier, just a little over a month ago, we had that Dallas field office threatened by a bomb threat. And now we have this just basically a couple of weeks later. What are you seeing and feeling when you hear that timeline kind of illustrated for context?
I mean, it's obviously concerning in the sense that we see a string or a pattern here where many of these facilities are being targeted, right? So in the end, what we have to do is ensure that law enforcement is ready for the next eventuality, and we have to start figuring out what the pattern is. Are there facilities that are being targeted because of their vulnerability, their accessibility, or is it a matter of a random choice that is done by the bad guy? But either way, we have to be ready for it, react to it immediately, and ensure that people are safe.
So breaking news just into our newsroom. We now have heard from two Homeland Security officials, Dr. Del Carmen, that two Homeland Security officials are telling CBS News that suspected shooter is confirmed dead. Now, one official is saying that 3 people right now are in critical condition. We're sending, again, 3 crews there to the scene and also to the hospital as well, just to follow exactly what's happening. Yeah, Parkland Hospital is located basically a half mile from this scene. So hopefully they were able to get those folks to the hospital quickly. But 3 people, again, in critical condition. And we are hearing that the shooter is no longer a threat. So that is new information just into our newsroom that CBS is confirming right now. I just want to look at this TxDOT camera really quickly because it's getting darker, which we know that those storms are about to roll through this area as well. So if you are on your morning commute, be aware that 35E is basically a parking lot right now. There is traffic all the way from downtown Dallas up to this scene at Empire Central. And I'm also hearing that traffic on 183, because this is right at the merge of 183 and 35E, is also really stacking up. So if your commute takes you through any part of this area of Dallas, you are going to find it very difficult to get around this morning. Again, we're joined on the phone with Alex Del Carmen. He is a criminology professor at Tarleton State. Dr. Del Carmen, you've been around this area of North Texas for many years. You have so many sources within the Dallas Police Department and Dallas Sheriff's Office. You mentioned earlier to our viewers the kind of cooperative approach that these scenes will take on whenever you're dealing with a scene that is not only local but also has federal ties. So again, kind of paint the picture for us of the number of agencies and the agencies you expect to be involved in this investigation.
Yeah, so I expect for multiple agencies to be involved at the federal, state, and local level. So for starters, you remember that this is happening in jurisdictions where the local law enforcement authority has primary jurisdiction. So they're likely responding to the scene, ensuring that traffic is blocked, ensuring that, other people are not going to get hurt by virtue of their curiosity to slow down at the scene, or simply, that they're going to be inspired to, to stop and ask questions, right? Secondly, there's also the state, which is going to also help in terms of traffic monitoring, and then the federal agencies, which are likely already at the scene, ensuring that they process the crime scene, trying to find out where the shooter was, making sure that they have processed, taken pictures, and done everything that they can. And the weather is a factor, right? So when you look at the fact that storms are coming in, anytime you have a crime scene that is outdoors, it's always vulnerable to the elements, and we know that, and we try to contain it as quickly as we can. And in this particular case, the storms are imminent, so I'm sure that law enforcement is moving very, very quickly to ensure that they can preserve the evidence that may be needed at some point.
And again, we just want to provide some context to this situation, because back in July, if you're thinking, okay, ICE facility, police activity, if that sounds familiar, it's because it is a familiar scene, unfortunately, in some recent weeks and months here in North Texas. Back on July 4th, you'll remember down in Johnson County, just south of Fort Worth in Alvarado, the Prairieland ICE facility was the scene of a police officer being injured in a shooting at that Immigrations and Custom Enforcement detention facility. That happened in the
Yeah. All right, we've been watching coverage from CBS News Texas. Hey everyone, I'm Errol Barnett at the CBS Broadcast Center here in New York. And as you just saw there, there has been a shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas. We have heard from the Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, via her X account as she confirms that the shooter is deceased by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. However, there are 3 people, sources tell CBS News, who are currently in critical condition. Now, this ICE field office serves as a temporary detention center, and this all happened in the early morning hours of Wednesday. You're seeing a huge police presence there outside the field office. This is very close to Dallas Love Field, for those of you who are familiar with the area. This is also just off of a major highway. You're seeing the I-35 East, which is likely to slow commutes for people there. But the shooting is taking place. The secretary says we don't know the motive of the shooter, who is now deceased, but she does highlight in her message that this comes at a time of unprecedented violence toward Homeland Security and ICE officials. We are going to continue to speak with our sources, watch our local coverage closely, and bring you more information as details on this shooting emerge. But for now, the breaking news is that there was a shooting early this morning at an ICE field office in Dallas that also serves as a temporary holding center. The shooter is deceased by a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but sources also tell CBS News that right now 3 people are in critical condition and have been rushed to local hospitals. We're going to continue to bring you updates on this story throughout the day, so stay with us for that. For now, we turn things over to CBS Mornings Plus.
It's Wednesday, September 24th, 2025, and this is CBS Mornings Plus.
Lots to talk about. Let's get going.
This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air after a nearly week-long suspension. We'll tell you what he had to say.
President Trump asserts U.S. power in a wide-ranging address to the United Nations.
This is indeed the golden age of America.
Oh, please. Cheddar's not a spy. Aboard, she's on the list.
So Cheddar has an earpiece?
Do you treat your pets like one of your kids? Well, you're not alone. And a new book says it might even be good for you. We'll explain.
The winner of Survivor Second Chance, Jeremy.
Plus, season 49 of Survivor premieres tonight. We're talking to one of the game's greatest players of all time, Jeremy Collins.